Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Planning Commission meeting for October 10th, 2025. The meeting rules have not been posted at the door yet, so I just want to note, please no jeering, clapping, stomping, etc. We want to make sure there's a safe space for all opinions to be heard and feel comfortable speaking. If you would like to speak on a topic, please fill out a comment card and hand it to one of the commissioners on the end, and they will pass it towards the center. And now also all comments that came in before 12 today have been put in the public record and have been passed on to commissioners. So just know that those have already been expressed. We'll jump to the roll call.
When I call your name, please say here. Commissioner Barrett.
Here.
Commissioner Barry.
Here.
Commissioner Burrows.
Here.
Commissioner Krasik.
Here.
Commissioner Rosenfield.
Here.
Commissioner Scott.
Here.
Commissioner Vella. Here. And we have a quorum of 7.
Thank you. We will now have the report of the chair and the vice chair, and I have nothing to report.
Nothing to report.
Okay, great. We'll jump over to the report of the director.
Hi, so happy to be here. Okay, today, the mixed use consolidation zoning changes are in effect. October 8th.
Whoa.
Yes. Very exciting. Should have had a pizza party or something. Anyhow, thought I would announce that. And yesterday we had a council briefing where we discussed the RMF 35 and RMF 45 changes with the council for, I don't know, probably about 45 minutes at the Sorensen Center, where they held their council work session. I think it was successful. A lot of great questions from our council members. And I think we will probably have another briefing. And the public hearing has been set as well. So stay tuned. That's all I have.
Michaela, a couple of follow-up questions. When is the briefing for that RMF? Do you think it's been scheduled? What for?
I will check on that. Let me check on that right
And then,
now.
okay.
Yeah.
All of the things you have to have in your mind.
Yeah, I don't think that's been scheduled yet.
You can just email me when you get it. And then, so do you have an idea, because I don't expect you to know this on the fly, but how many projects are grandfathered in prior to this MU effective date?
I do not have that number.
Okay, thanks.
I could make one up, but I do not have that number.
Thank you. Those are some pretty big, exciting news. So thanks so much. Okay, so now we're moving on to the open forum. This is a time where commissioners can talk about planning, zoning, general land use items, and items that are not on the traditional agenda. There is no public hearing associated with this item. Are there any comments, questions, thoughts in the open forum portion? Yes.
I had one. It was just basically a comment. I was asked to attend the Utah League of Cities and Towns, and I thought it was very good this year. There was, I think, the focus of cities and towns centers as a focus area was very good. Cool cities discussion. A number of P3 projects in concert with cities up and down the Wasatch Front, like the Engine House project. Several SAP, the station area plan requirements, were met. Market Center. It's enamoring to see cities up and down the Wasatch Front that are really focusing on their downtowns and creating places where people can eat, play, work, live. That was very good, and just wanted to thank the city for allowing me to attend. It was very good this year.
Thanks, yeah. That kind of polycentric format of having many hearts across the valley seems like it's really taking hold and is exciting. So thanks for sharing that. That's great. Any other comments? Great. We will move forward past the open forum. We're moving on to the consent agenda. So these are items that generally are not considered to require very much conversation, but still may require some conversation. There's no public discussion associated with our consent agenda today. We actually only have one item. The meeting minutes didn't get finished in time, so we will approve those at a separate meeting. The one thing we have is the potential approval of a one-year plan development extension for 155 South, 600 West. Does anyone have a motion on this?
I'll make a motion. So I move to approve the consent agenda item number 1, the time extension for 155 South, 600 West.
I'll second.
Okay, we'll say the second was from Lila. We have a motion by Commissioner Berry and a second by Commissioner Rosenfield. We'll take a vote.
Commissioner Barrett,
Yes.
Commissioner Berry,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrows,
Yes.
Commissioner Krasik,
Yes.
Commissioner Rosenfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
and Commissioner Vella.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passed.
Okay, that passes 7-0. We will now move over to the regular agenda. The first item on the regular agenda is a design review for Cole West student housing at approximately 410 South, 900 East. We will start with a presentation by staff.
Thank you, Chair. This is a design review proposal for Cole West for student housing. The property is located at 410 South, 900 East. To the north is a track station, and there are several smaller businesses. To the east is the former Village Inn, where a new townhome development was approved over the summer. To the south is the former Bennion Elementary, and to the west is Salt Lake Roasting. So the applicant submitted in May 2025, and so it's subject to the standards in place at that time for the TSA UNC zoning district. It meets the TSA score requirement with 128 points, and the proposal is for housing that will be targeted to students and using the rooming or boarding house land use classification. Also, I wanted to note that there were previous approvals for the site, and it's now under new ownership, and this is a new proposal. So this shows the existing conditions of the site, the former Office Max parking lot and building. And so this is facing west. And then this is a view of the parking and the building from the tracks platform. And staff's recommendation is for approval with 4 conditions. The design review request is for a number of items. I'll go over the items on 400 South first. Approval for building length over 200 feet. An increase in the front setback to 11 feet, and a floor-to-ceiling height for one unit of 11 feet rather than 12 feet. So on this slide, you can see the building length would be at grade 425 feet and 6 inches. And then as far as the setbacks, the property line there is shown in blue, and it does jog in for the bus stop. And the requirement is for 50% of the building to be at 10 feet. And so they're proposing 11 feet for 58%. And this is a very busy street on 400 South, and there is a very narrow park strip, so staff supports this request. And then for the single unit that has a floor-to-ceiling height, the 12 feet is required since there is a grade change across the site, and they're using a provision in the commercial districts that allows for an additional 10% in building height. And so for this unit, that just didn't work for the grade change. And so there are 4 requests for modification of standards on 900 East, an increase in the corner side yard setback, a reduction in the glass, a reduction in the required active uses, and a reduction in the building entrances. And these are all relatively related to each other. So for the property line and the setback, similar to 400 South, you can see the property line there in blue, and then the building is set back 11 feet from the property line, and the requirement is for half of it to be at 5 feet from the property line. And staff supports this modification. There is a larger park strip on 900 East, but it is already a large building, and this parallels the setback on 400 South. And then on this slide, you can see the other requests. So the request is for a reduction in glass from 60 to 44%. You can see in blue the areas between 3 and 8 feet that would be glass. The applicant worked with staff to place the loading interior to the building, which is a requirement, and as a result of that, there was a loss of the door. But I think it makes for kind of a better facade as far as the visibility of the back of house uses, and then they are providing an art mural for visual interest that it meets the intent of that standard. And the applicable zoning ordinance standards are in 21A 26078 for the TSA zoning district, and the design review standards in 21A 59. And as I mentioned earlier, this was submitted in May 2025, so the standards in place at that time apply. Staff found that it was compliant with both Plan Salt Lake and the Central Community Plan. As far as public process, they went through the 45-day early notification period. There was an online open house. Staff and the applicant were at the East Central Community Council for discussion there. Staff did receive a few email comments, and those were included in your packet. Are there questions and comments for staff at this point? The applicant is here and does have a presentation.
If we could bring the applicant up, if you can speak for 10 minutes on your project, I mean up to 10 minutes, that would be great. Thanks.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Commission. We're honored to be able to be here this evening to present this project. My name is Walker Wood. I'm a Vice President of Development at Coal West. We've been committed to Salt Lake City for almost a decade now. Most of the projects that you will recognize were previously developed under the CW Urban brand. But earlier this year, we decided to consolidate. We had in-house architecture, general contractor, and development that all had unique names, and so we announced the consolidation into Coal West and retired the CW Urban brand. But we're the same team that has successfully delivered 22 projects in our city. 14 of those have been for sale, providing new homeownership opportunities. 8 of those have been rental, a combination of apartments and townhomes. Through our experience, we have not just provided housing, we've learned about the diverse needs of those renters and buyers who are looking to make a career in Salt Lake City. And one of the demographics that we have repeatedly noticed is underserved is our student population. We have students attending the University of Utah, Newmont College, Ensign College, Westminster University, and Salt Lake Community College, all contributing to the vibrancy and unique nature of Salt Lake City as our capital city. Salt Lake City is home to a Tier 1 flagship university located in a unique urban setting, just minutes from our central business district, and in Salt Lake City, where nearly 1 out of every 4 jobs in the state is found here. Students come here to be educated, and we want to help them fall in love with our city, stay here after graduation, and contribute to its growth and vibrancy. So that's why we're here tonight. We are proposing our first purpose-built student housing opportunity. Because we haven't done student housing specifically, we have canvassed the country looking for the right partner, and we ended up hosting a series of interviews to find the right fit who would be contributing to not just a short-term one-time project, but really believes in the lasting legacy and will be proud of what we leave behind. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mina, who is the lead architect on this project, to describe the project in more detail.
Good evening. I'm sensitive to your time, so we have a lot of slides. I'll go very quickly through them.
I'm sorry, could you please state your name for the record?
Yes, my name is Mina Lamb with Lamar Johnson Collaborative. The site is, a short ride, one stop to the stadium entrance and 2 stops to the heart of the campus. This would make a great student site. And then really taking a step back, when we started the project, it was important for us to establish 4 goals architecturally, and we deemed these 4 as the most important. The first is to establish a contextual architecture rooted in both the downtown and the East Central neighborhood fabric. The second is to create a human-scale urban environment by breaking down the massing with horizontal and vertical layering, setbacks, and a variety of materials. The third is to prioritize the pedestrian experience by creating a walkable, landscaped environment with safe connections to transit, bike, and walk networks. And last but not least, to foster community and student well-being through amenity spaces, outdoor terraces, common areas that promote social interaction. The concept of the design was we were influenced by the existing city grid juxtaposed with the rugged and natural terrain. And so we've overlaid a grid, divided the building into 2 separate buildings that, with internal courtyards that sit within this natural landscape. So this is 4 massing diagrams that is a progression to show the thinking to how we got to the massing that we have today. The first step is to look at the property line and the zoning setbacks, identifying the outline of the building that can be built. The second step was to extrude that mass, and that was a large volume for us. So we broke the volumes in step 3 into 2 buildings that are 200 feet in width with internal courtyards, and that are connected with a narrow link that is pushed back from 400 South. And then we took the volume on the corner and pushed it further back, increased that setback to create a landscaped zone. We were influenced by the lab building, catty corner to this development. And then the last diagram, we've taken that, taken that volume on the corner and further broke that down into smaller buildings and expression to create a hierarchy, given that that was the more prominent visual corner directly from the crosswalk to the transit connection. The next slide shows our approach for breaking down the massing of breaking down the facade, and what we've done is layer on horizontal layering as well as vertical layering. For horizontal, we've introduced a strong 2-story base, a middle, and a top. Vertically, we've introduced balconies, and as well as increased corner glass on the corners, as well as some of these areas. And I think this is a good diagram to point out that there are currently 2 curb cuts existing on 400 South and 2 curb cuts on 900 East. We are removing the 2 curb cuts on 400 South and introducing only 1 curb cut on 900 East, and that is located, shown in that area called Service. This is consolidated entrance for trucks and cars and services. What this does is it's one development perceived as 2 buildings, and this allows us the opportunity to, on the ground floor, create a continuous active uses along 400 South that wraps the corner on 900 East, and more importantly, to create a continuous pedestrian flow that is uninterrupted by vehicular traffic. We think this is an improvement to what was there now. Next page. This is the rendering of the corner of the building, so you can see the different volumes, even though there's a subtle expression of windows, materials, pallets. They do all tie together to be one cohesive identity. Next slide. This is the concept for the landscape planning. We wanted to create variety of outdoor spaces that reflect and complement the interior uses, as well as have the right engagement with the public way. So we've broken this up into 4 zones. The first zone, from left to right, is in pink. That is a central welcoming plaza. That's where we have the main entrance to the building, as well as the connection to the crosswalk, to the transit across the street. There is ample space for gathering, and then as the plaza turns the corner, where we have the arrows on 900, this is the maker space and artist studio. Directly to the right, in the purple area, we have a raised plaza, raised terrace with the space directly in front of that interior space is co-working lounge for the students, as well as a cafe. And then because the grade changes 11 feet from one end of 400 to the other end, because of the grade, there is a wall along that raised terrace. And what we've done is introduce a third landscaped area in green, which is step-down plantings that help to conceal that wall as well as soften that edge. And then the last zone is a more private zone. These are walk-up units to the private residential. We've introduced stoops with landscape pockets, and will be more private. So this is an aerial bird's eye view looking down at the building in the more public areas to show how the building comes down to the ground and engage these outdoor spaces. And this, for us, highlights that this development is really pedestrian-oriented development, and it would be a place where students would want to live. The next series of slides are pedestrian views. We will take you for a walk, starting from the corner and going inside the building and outside the building along the street. So this is the main entrance with a rightly scaled canopy. It is 2-story with brick detailing, combination of metal and warm wood with a lot of transparency. To the right of this, on 900, is the makerspace, and to the left of this is the makerspace and the artist studio, and to the right of this, of the main entrance, is the co-working lounge. So we're going to go inside. This is the makerspace artist studio. This is a hub for creative collaboration. It can be also seen as a community gathering space where we're connecting residences, students, and local artists. Next slide is the co-working space along 400 South. This is, again, a pop of color, warm materials that engage and are directly accessed from that raised terrace. Then we go back outside, and you can see the raised terrace in front of the cafe with the sidewalk. We've created an ample area around the existing bus stop for circulation. The raised terrace has planters and integrated seating, and again, the continuing the detailing of the facade along the street. Going now inside the cafe, this is, vibrant pop of color. The cafe will be open to the public and secured off from the student areas when the public is using the space. I know there's concern with ground floor retail being vacant, and the development team has committed to these spaces, all of these common spaces will be built out from day one when the students move in. We anticipate that before the certificate of occupancy is provided, that the units will all be 100% leased. So these spaces will not be vacant and built out. We're going to go back outside, and you can see the step-down plantings that help to really soften that edge with the wall where the grade gets steeper. And then on the far end, where we're right in front of the residential units, there is planters surrounding the stoops. This enhances the pedestrian experience as well as provide a little bit more of privacy and security to those residences. Building materials, it will be two-story combination of brick, metal, wood on the base, fiber cement panel above. I think we want it to really emphasize the materials will be durable, contextual, welcoming, and attention to detail will be paid for this areas along the pedestrian walkway. There are 3 areas for public art. Along the south, where we have the parking structure, this is a mural art that we're showing as example in 1A. These are not the final art. This is a reference image only. The second art is the mural wall along next to the garage entrance. And then the second, number 2, we have along the makerspace, there will be storefront art where it's double-sided art that will be visible from the exterior as well as the interior to help bring visual interest to that area. And then the last is interior. There will be a pop of color in the lobby and the back walls that, because of the high level of transparency of the storefront, will be very visible to the pedestrians. And so this is the site, the overall roof plan. This shows the full extent of the landscape. We went in a lot of detail along 400 South, but you can see on 900 East, there's a lot of green spaces, and the internal courtyards will have green roof. A total of 23 new trees will be planted just on grade, and the courtyards and the grand roof and the green roof will retain about 16,000 gallons of stormwater. This is the ground floor. Along 900, where we have the blue, that's the residential units, and then the active, fully active uses that wrap the corner. 80% transparency along this area, as well as an entrance at every 40 feet. The garage is 2 stories, and it's completely concealed and not visible from the 2 streets. There is 1 single point of entry for the garage on 900, as well as access for the trucks. Maneuvering for the trucks is completely internal with no interruption to the sidewalk. And the last thing I wanted to point out is there are 2 bike rooms that are accessed off of 400 South and 900 East. The bike rooms have workshops within those spaces, and this is to promote the bike trails, as well as to reduce the dependency on automobiles for the students. This is the typical residential floor above. Ample daylight into the courtyards for every unit. And then our last slide is the rooftop, where we do have additional student lounge space, fitness at the top floor for interior spaces, as well as the pool deck and additional landscape on the south east corner. Thank you for your time. Hope didn't take too much time, and we're open to your questions.
Great. Are there any clarifying questions before we open it to public comment? let them be clarifying.
I just have one clarifying question. Have you negotiated or tried to negotiate with UTA to move the bus stop on 9th East a little further south so it's not right in front of the parking garage entrance?
We have had early conversations, and we've done some traffic studies that they wanted to see, so those conversations are ongoing, but we haven't had a conclusive response from UTA.
I will also note that that stop was recently reconstructed, if I recall correctly, by a partnership between Salt Lake and UTA. So moving it further south may be organizationally complicated.
Any other clarifying questions before we open to public comment? Okay. We will likely have a few more questions a little later on, but we will open to public comment and then possibly come back. Okay, so now we would like to open to public comment. If you are a representative of a recognized community organization, you may have 5 minutes, otherwise you may have 2. Is there anyone who would like to make comment on this proposal? Okay. We have no public comment for this proposal. Now we will open up to the commission to discuss the item. If you would like to talk to the architect or the development team, you may call them back up to the podium.
I have a question for staff. Has the TSA, it's a condition that the TSA scoring needs to be approved. Has that been done yet? Or is there like a minimum score that's required for this project?
Sure. So they met the minimum score. Usually we wait until after the approval of the design review for issuing that TSA score, just in case there are any modifications that are made as part of the process.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not sure who this question is for, but I wonder about the Benyon School behind, abutting the project on the south. And of course, that school has been closed 2 years ago, 2 years ago. And, there's a lot of care and thought given to the sort of pedestrian experience on the north-facing and east-facing sides of the building. But, I just wonder to what extent either staff or the design team or the development team met with the school district to get any insights. I mean, it could be a park one day, and if so, an opportunity may have been missed from a design perspective on the building.
Sure. So as far as staff is concerned, we don't have information from the school district on plans for the site. Another item that I don't think we addressed yet is that there is a canal that runs through the middle of the parking lot, and part of this project would relocate that canal to the perimeter. And so I think that would also need to be addressed with a redevelopment if it were to connect to that site.
Mr. Chair, if I may ask a couple of questions of the design team.
Certainly. Would you mind stepping to the podium? Thanks.
I want to thank you all for presenting this project. There are a couple really exciting components. I do have a few questions. So first of all, and maybe this also can be answered partially by staff, but I think it's a sort of hybrid question. So the terrace in the front that's sort of like a public space but has a different material and massing than the sidewalk, that is not included in the 11-foot setback that you're requesting, right? Sorry, if you could.
Sorry.
If you go back, like I think 2 more or 1 more maybe. Nope. Further.
Keep going back.
Yeah, so where they're like grayish cobblestones. That is part of the building insofar as, like, when it comes to the requested 11-foot setback, that's the sidewalk is the 11 feet, and then plus the cobblestone or the gray stone flagstones.
So that specific area right here is the center portion of the building, which is actually set back even more than
Okay.
the 11 feet.
Because of the bus stop.
Right.
There's an additional setback.
But if you go further, I guess, east, there's still a small strip of public space, correct?
Correct.
That's paved?
Go to the
Oh,
plan.
east. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there. Yes, exactly. So I guess in addition to my question about like the procedural matter, my other question is in terms of access control. Would that just be open to? So would it be effectively a publicly owned privately owned public space, where anybody from the street is permitted to be on that space at any time?
Correct. So there's multiple zones that can be accessible or secured, but this most central gathering entry space will be public. So there will not be security that's only for the residents at that entrance on 4th and 9th, which I think is what you're asking. There are some areas of the ability to secure that are further interior of the building.
The exterior space, though.
This is all
exactly
the
that.
outdoor space. Like, I'm not.
Yeah,
Okay.
the exterior space is all publicly accessible but privately owned.
Okay. And you would there be some sort of rulemaking around that space that the management would expect to have?
Yeah, we'll have management and security monitor it.
Okay. I mean, I just want to make sure we're not going after folks who are just living their lives in the city. So thank you for that. Second question, what was, with regard to the decision to request that setback on 9th East, which is significantly greater than is typically permitted. I think a lot about heat and the fact that our streets are so wide, and obviously on 4th South, there's just nothing that can be done, right? Our streets are so wide that there is no way that we can mitigate heat effects by having large masses that shadow the full street. But on 9th, right, that's a little bit more of a community collector street. And if the building were closer, it might reduce the heat for folks, say, biking with shade. So I'm wondering what led to the decision to pull the building back on that side.
I think we were driven by increased setbacks would help to reduce the mass from the pedestrian experience, and that landscaping also would help, improve. We really did not think about shadows and shade. That wasn't the intent. It's
the opposite of, I think, what a problem that most people will have, but I just wanted to flag it. So I appreciate that.
Additionally, too, we wanted to wrap the plaza around that area on the 9th Street.
Absolutely.
Also access to the bike workshop, so that gives us the opportunity to even open up not just on 400, but also on 900. Also, our service area, we would rather have the server kind of pull back a little bit more from the street, so we thought it would be a good idea to pull it back a little bit more.
Appreciate it.
It was the corner area. We anticipated a high level of pedestrian traffic, so providing that space for them right across from the crosswalk made sense.
Excellent, thank you. And then last, but definitely not least, so in the staff report, there's extensive comments by the housing department. I don't know if you had a chance to look those over, but they have, they ask specifically about low-income opportunities and also whether this would in any way be restricted to students. So is there a planned sort of restriction to only the university or Newmont, or is it just generally that the structure is designed around student living?
There's no restriction. It's marketed primarily to students, and the the units are leased by the bed, which really helps address kind of the target price point that students are looking for. They don't have to commit to a large 4-bedroom unit and be afraid that a roommate might move out and they're going to, suddenly be stuck with 3 roommates sharing a 4-bedroom unit. So they're all leased by the bed, and we typically do lease for a school year in advance. But there are no restrictions in place. It's just marketed toward the student lifestyle and what they're looking for in terms of how they're renting.
Understood. Thank you.
And one more comment to address that. We have been talking with Tony because this is a newer concept, the purpose-built student. As far as income restrictions, some of those restrictions don't apply as students, and it can make it hard to qualify under income restrictions, which is another reason why we don't get too prescriptive on who can live there and what income levels are available, because as students, the income is viewed differently than
Understood.
working adults. So that has added some nuance.
Thank you. And then in terms of ADA accessibility, are there planned to be ADA accessible units throughout the building?
Yes, the units will be compliant for the accessibility code that's governed for this city and that location.
And the main entrance will be fully wheelchair accessible?
Correct, yes, right at the corner of northeast where the slope meets the entry, that's all ADA accessible.
Okay. And the cafe, would that also be?
All
They would just have to.
amenity spaces.
That would be
Okay.
yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Will the individual units, each one will have a kitchen and dining area?
Yeah,
That's
so
kind of like suites?
Yeah, it's really apartment style living, so they just have more bedrooms per kitchen. But we typically do bed bath parity, so each individual bedroom has its own bathroom with studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and up to 4 bedrooms, sharing a common kitchen and living area.
Thanks.
Something that I'm curious what the commission's thoughts are on is something I like about the renderings that we're seeing is that the 400 feet of massing is broken up by articulating 2 separate building types. And some of that is happening because of the material change that is happening between one structure versus the other, where one has more brick versus, go back one, sorry, go
Forward? There you go.
right here, yes, thank you. As far as I understand it, though, that's not necessarily 100% guaranteed not to change unless we make a recommendation that it doesn't change. Like the percentage of material needs to stay the same, but it could be relocated to a different portion of the building. So we could make a recommendation to ensure a visually substantial difference between building A and building B, if we feel like that's important to break up that massing. But also, if the commission feels that it's unnecessary and that it's already something they're planning to do, then I understand that perspective as well. Amy.
Okay, so
Commissioner Berry.
clarifying question for staff. If they do modify the building materials, what's the level then it becomes significant change that it would come back to us versus an administrative approval?
Yeah, excuse me. So as a minor modification, as you guys know, they're pretty limited. One thing is something that Commissioner Krasik mentioned. You can't, let's say the front facade is 50% brick. It has to remain at 50% brick. You can arrange it in a different pattern, perhaps, is kind of what Commissioner Kranz was saying. But anything that I think was more than 10, 25%, I don't think Nick would feel comfortable doing that without coming back to the Planning Commission. But if you wanted to make sure that they were distinctly different, that could be stated in the motion, or if that makes sense.
So that's one point. it may already be covered in that particular thing. When a applicant makes substantial changes, there is a point where it has to come back to us. And if you feel comfortable with that or not, is the question. Two, though, I think more important to that in breaking up this long facade is the articulation of building frontage or the facade and how it fluctuates. So we have a large opening of where you've divided into the two buildings and you set it way back, right? And then even from there, we have another articulation from the corner. I think that aspect is a much larger point of what is making this 425 plus facade actually work than versus the building material. So if we were going to, I mean, I think it's covered in that this is what we would be approving. And if they tried to change those functions of that facade, then that would have to come back to us. So I think there are 2 points of what material for you, the fluctuating and the opening of the building in those 200-foot increments, I think is actually more important if we were a pedestrian on the street to help break that up, in my view. So I don't know that it's really necessary to then articulate a condition if we vote to approve it that stipulates if those changes, it needs to come back to us, because I think that's covered in the substantial modifications process.
Yeah, and I just pulled up the actual section of code just so I'm remembering correctly. But it really says the only thing that can be approved by the planning director is dimensional requirements in order to comply with building code, fire code, or engineering standards. You know, at this point in stage, it's not a fully engineered building because they want to get your approval first. So there can be some minor things there. And the second one, it says minor changes to building materials, provided the modification is limited in the dimension of the material. Changes to a different material will not be considered a minor modification. Anything other than that has got to come back to Planning Commission.
Right, so if they do modify, say, the fluctuating facade, we'll just call it, you know, the corner and then A and B for the sake of my talking. If they fluctuate those setbacks based on what we approve, that is a major modification.
Absolutely. Setbacks,
So,
height,
right.
glazing requirements.
We've seen things come back for building material changes before,
Yeah, if it's
so
a
that
different
should be
material,
covered.
for sure has to come back.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, and I don't know that it is, I think it's already covered in that, but.
My concern, I think that it's already covered. And I completely agree with you that the most important element is the articulation of the facade. I just think it also helps that material shift is happening with that facade break. And one could theoretically have the same percent of material spread across both buildings or all three sections as you articulated that would say, so right now there's more brick on the east side than the west side. One could spread that brick evenly and still not have to come back to us for a material change because there's the same percentage of brick that's being used across both buildings. So I'm just asking, do we want to ensure that the articulation that we're seeing is done the way that we're seeing by saying the building material type
Understood.
needs to shift
Understood.
between buildings?
Yeah, I think what the applicant has done has been very respectful and mindful of the price point where they are. You know, there's subtle changes, and this diagram shows it pretty well, where there's a bit of an elevation change at the northwest. You know, the ground is sloping from west up to the east. I think the ground floor is activated very, very nicely all the way along there. I love the fact that there's two less entrances taken out of 4th South. You know, I think that just helps everything. You know, the indentation between the two buildings I think is very nice. And there's a bit of a plaza there, you know, and then it turns the corner. So I understand what you're saying in terms of, you know, could there be multiple materials? Perhaps. But I think there's enough play on the building that, that I can see that there's a push and pull, and there's a variety along the face of the building that I think they're very simple materials, but I think they're effectively used. I do like the northeast corner where it's a little bit activated up on that upper level, and I think that'll be a party happening place on, football weekend. So I think it's very nicely done.
Cool, thank you.
I'll make a motion.
Great.
Based on the information presented in this discussion, I move that the commission approve this design review application as recommended by staff.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and we have a second. We will move on to voting. That will be facilitated by staff.
Commissioner Barrett,
Yes.
Commissioner Barry,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrows,
Yes.
Commissioner Krasik,
Yes.
Commissioner Rosenfeld,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Vella.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you guys very much. This
Mr.
seems
Chair?
like a very
Mr.
nice
Chair?
project.
Mr. Chair, I just want to
Thank
make
you.
one passing comment in that I do hope you continue your discussions to moving that bus stop, because this is a significant traffic change to that particular area, and I think it would be better all around. So that's just my only other comment.
Thank you. And to address your comment earlier, while we don't know what the future use is of the school, and it could end up as school, that is partly why we want a really cool, interesting mural on the south side. We've gotten feedback, well, no one can really see that, and we don't know what's going to happen. We think that could end up becoming very prominent. And Kim Martinez at the University of Utah teaches a mural class, and they go find somewhere in the valley. We think it would be a really neat idea to bring local muralists with students and contribute there. So can't commit to that happening, but we do want to activate that without knowing what the future use is.
Got to keep up with South Salt Lake
That's right.
on the murals.
Thank you guys, appreciate it. Okay, we are ready for our next item, a street vacation request at 6780 West, North Temple Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Here to present to you the North Temple Landfill Street Vacation request. If you get a little bit of deja vu as I go through this, that's because we went through a very similar request on the opposite side of I-80 earlier in the summer. Just to orient you to the property, as mentioned, this is the former North Temple landfill site at 6780 West North Temple. This is on the north side of I-80, just west of the International Center in the light manufacturing zone, District 1. The request is to vacate several portions of right-of-way that cross the property. You can see in the aerial view on the screen, I've highlighted those in yellow. Our recommendation is to approve with conditions. Some background here, this was subdivided over 100 years ago as part of the Maplewood Addition subdivision plat. The streets were dedicated in a typical residential manner, pattern of streets and blocks with narrow right-of-way widths. That was never developed as originally intended. And throughout the 60s and 70s, this property was used as a landfill until it was closed in 1979. Landfill operations were moved to the Salt Lake Valley landfill that remains in operation today. In the 80s, I-80 was constructed. 1986 was when that was completed, effectively cutting that original subdivision in half. And that brings us to today. This is a picture that I took just to give you a sense of what's out there now, this picture is from, if I go back, kind of the top of that center street looking out north onto the site. The Inland Port Authority is the property owner, and they have already begun some initial phases of the environmental remediation of the landfill site. When we review these requests, first thing we do is review the adopted plans to see what the city's vision is for the site. Notably, the Northwest Quadrant Master Plan did not recommend any residential uses in any of the Northwest Quadrant. This was a decision that was made during that planning process. All of the site is envisioned for light industrial type uses or supporting types of businesses and services. A couple policies to note. It is the policy of the city to support environmental remediation of former landfill sites to allow development. Another policy is that the roads should be built specifically to handle large truck traffic and the high travel frequency that's expected in these industrial areas. And there are also specific goals in the plan that this area will be developed as a sort of gateway into the city, that it will have additional services, things like other business offices, hotels, and other uses that may support the industrial growth in the area. The standards that are applicable are the state code requiring a public hearing, requiring that we find good cause for the request and that there will be no material injury to any person. And then the city code gives a few standards for consideration. Lack of use is one, as these roads were not developed as originally intended. And then urban design, we also wanted to call out, as noted, the original pattern that was subdivided is more of a residential pattern, which no longer aligns with the city's vision for this site that would include larger, wider streets capable of handling that type of traffic. As our department reviewers reviewed this request, this very similar comments to the previous petition that you reviewed recently. Public Utilities does not have utilities in the subject area, but they would like to require an easement so that future improvements can be made. So we were recommending that be included as a condition. And the engineering, again, did not support the request, but they did not indicate any specific concerns with this location. So based on all of that information and the additional information in your report, we are recommending approval, or that you recommend approval to the City Council subject to those recommended conditions. Happy to answer any questions. And representative for the applicant is here as well.
Can we have the representative come to the stand? You have up to 10 minutes to discuss the project.
I'm Corbin Benyon with Dominion Engineering. I'll do y'all a favor and not take the 10 minutes. Just to add to what Andy said, the existing North Temple frontage road will be widened to accommodate 3 lanes. We've already met with UDOT to go over preliminary design of that. And, you know, other than that, I'm just here for questions.
Great, thank you. Does the commission have any clarifying questions to ask?
Yeah, so it looks like this only goes about 1 block, this vacation request. Is it just that the subdivision never extended any further than that?
That's right, yeah, that was the extent of the original subdivision.
Okay. I guess out of a quick, like, I guess, history lesson, curiosity, do you know why the planned use in this area so subdivisioned, and what we see now, which is a primarily industrial and landfill use? Was there change in the economic, was it the Great Depression, basically?
You know, Commissioner, I can actually speak to that a little bit just because I've worked on several of these. There was a period of time in the late 1880s, 90s, and early 1900s where developers were going out and finding cheap land and throwing a subdivision on there, but then realizing there are no public utilities. They weren't extended out. Also, the ground wasn't very good for agriculture. And so they just never happened. And so I've worked on several that if it was built this magic time or dedicated between like 1897 and 1910, we can just wipe it away. But this one is like a year or two late, so we'll have to do this. We also did, this is before my time or right when I started, but the airport used to have like 4 or 5 platted little towns that we just built an airport over. So I think our goal would be to eliminate these where we know there's no way that this will ever become a little town or a little village or something like that. So it's all over the west side. There's still some that exist. Some, and even if you get closer to the lake, that is just swamp. So I think it was just more living conditions and somebody trying to make a quick buck and realizing it was not that.
I mean, the term never always makes me a little nervous because, like, as we see, the Granary District was very industrial for many, many years, and now it's not industrial. And, like, I do worry that 100 years hence, the land might turn over and some future planning commission will curse our name as we end up having abolished the beginnings of a complete street network. That would be, I guess, my only discomfort in making this call.
If there are no more, do you have clarifying?
Yeah, for staff. So one of your conditions is to reserve an easement. Is there a reason why we use that wording versus recording?
I don't know that we were trying to make a distinction with that language. But the
intent is the same, that they'll record it?
That is the intent,
okay.
Yes.
That's what I wanted to clarify. Thanks.
And to add to that, we've already met with public utilities, and they'll basically require the easements along the proposed roads going north, not over the whole property.
If there are no more clarifying questions, we'll open up to public comment. Is there anyone who would like to talk to this item? Yeah, you please speak your name into the podium over there and you'll have 2 minutes.
Sorry, this is the first time doing this. I'm Timothy Welke. I'm a resident here in Salt Lake City. I just wanted to clarify, are you only accepting questions for this specific proposal of changing the easement, or are you including questions about the development and widening those to 3-lane street?
You have 2 minutes to make comment in whatever form you want to, and but if you have a specific question, it might just be better to have a full conversation with staff once the meeting is over. But if you want to fulfill your 2 minutes, this isn't really like a conversation format.
I understand. That's my misunderstanding. Just want to say that's the green line right there. I'm worried. The only concern I have is that if it's going to be the gateway to Salt Lake City, especially from the airport, a lot of people might take the green line instead of driving down because traffic is so bad, and we have that disconnect from the highways of East and West Salt Lake, and that green line could be a big opportunity for people to connect who may not have access to cars or who might fly in and don't want to drive. And I'm just worried about any traffic issues with widening that to 3 lanes, as those trains, I believe, on the green line are at grade, but that's my only comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Quick clarifying question. This area is substantially to the west of where the green line currently
I'm sorry,
ends,
point
correct?
of order, Mr. Chair. Are you going to close the public hearing?
Yes, thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, we will close the public hearing, and now we will open it up to the commission to discuss the item. You may speak.
Yes. This is substantially west of the airport and thus substantially west of the current end of the green line, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
I don't know if it's any official plans now, and you may know more than I do, but there was a time when there was a lot of discussion about an extension of the Green Line into kind of an inland port area, but I don't think it's on like an official plan right now.
It is not currently in the UTA Moves long-range transit plan.
I thought you would know that, so.
I think it's a great photo of an antelope in your report. That was kind of exciting. I'm prepared to make a motion if,
We've got one more comment.
I was going to make a motion, but I'll defer.
Okay. I'll let whoever wants to make a motion, make a motion.
why don't you do it?
I'd like to make a motion. Let's see here. Based on the information presented in the discussion, I move that the commission recommend that the city council adopt this request with the following two conditions. Property owners shall reserve an easement on the subject property in favor of Salt Lake City for the use, access, and maintenance of utilities and related facilities as approved by SLC DPU. And the second, the vacated portions of right-of-way shall be consolidated with the subject property through a parcel consolidation application.
Great. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. We have a first and we have a second, and we will lean on staff to do the vote.
Commissioner Barrett,
Yes.
Commissioner Barry,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrows.
Yes.
Commissioner Krazik,
Yes.
Commissioner Rosenfield,
No.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Vela.
Yes.
That passed 6-1.
All right, and that concludes our agenda for the evening, and so we will adjourn.
That was an unforeseen future 100 years down the road.
Your jinx did not come true.